Bent and Jaffa's orange grows. Microchips is us. iPhone cameras us. Taco salads us. Podamos us. Olive Garden us. White cloth for us. Sabra Hamas. Hasbara sus.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Y bienvenido to Bad Hasbara.
El podcast máximo bueno moralístico
In tout le monde.
El
That's
mundo.
French. In
todo,
El Mundo. There
todo
we go.
el mundo.
Yes. My name is Matt Lieb. I will be your most moral co-host.
And I am other guy, Daniel Mate.
Also
Similarly
moral.
most moral.
Also moral.
Yeah.
Maybe second most moral, sometimes first most moral. All depends on how we're feeling that day. And you know what? I'm feeling pretty moral this week. I feel like a moral man. And I am so glad that you are all joining us from all across this great earth to listen to another episode of this dumb podcast about stuff and things. Please.
It is a good week to feel moral because, you know, so many disagreements over the last 11 months, so much,
That's right.
so much tragedy on both sides, trademark.
Yeah, both sides.
But this week, you know,
Patent pending.
some things happened where all of us Jews can get to feel really moral by like completely focusing on those things.
Yes.
And agreeing with each other that everyone else is a heartless monster.
Everyone else is
for
immoral.
not checking in on us.
What happened to humanity? I am always asking every time something happens to me directly, and you know, or me indirectly.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened to our humanity? You know, like
Every time something happens that affects me personally, I ask, how did we get here?
how do we get here? And every time something happens that doesn't affect me at all, I say, how dare you demand emotional labor from me by trauma dumping all of your dead children on my timeline? That's trauma dumping.
That's too much trouble. I just say I'm busy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I just cry. I say it's abuse. I just keep telling people, you're abusing me right now by making me think about things other than myself. Kind of fucked up.
Yeah, you're abusing me, and in some ways you're erasing me. Because me doesn't want to hear from you.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like you're invisibilizing my desire to keep your pain invisible.
Yes. Stop Invisalining me, man. Like, what the hell? Like, it's just insane the way
Isn't
that
is that
people.
one of those things that goes on the teeth?
Yeah, it
Okay,
makes your
yeah.
teeth straight, and you know, but it's insane that people, you know, who care so much about all of, you know, these people that they don't even know, wouldn't reach out to me when a bad thing happens to a bunch of people that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give us 5 stars and review on all the podcast apps. And shout out to producer Adam Levin, the producer who I was trying to think of a rhyme, couldn't think of it. Producer who's Bud is looser.
Who's better than you, sir?
Yeah, there we go. I'm glad you chimed in because I said Bud is looser.
He's the producer who keeps this podcast leavened.
Yeah, that's right. He's leavening this producer, the podcast.
The
Also,
leavening agent.
the loser thing is true though. Loose butthole.
Loose booty.
Also,
What Beastie Boys song samples the Sly and the Family Stone song "Loose Booty"?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I've only listened to one Beastie Boys album, and it was Intergalactic because it came out when I was in middle school. And
Okay, so that album is called "Hello Nasty," not Intergalactic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
see,
Intergalactic is the lead single off of it.
well, this thing is back when I was in middle school, you went to a Tower Records to buy an album for one song. So I always was weirded out. Like, why don't they just name the album after the song I like?
Right. What is this album thing? Well, so I'll let people in the comments sound off to answer that trivia question.
Let them
What
figure
Beastie
it
Boys
out.
song samples "Loose Booty"? But just to give you a hint, the sample sounds like this. There you go.
Okay.
Name that Beastie Boys tune.
Name that beastie track. Also, today's episode is brought to you by the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. There will be a link in the bio of this episode, pcrf.net. They provide food, medical equipment, and treatment in Gaza. So yeah, every episode we're gonna, since no, actual sponsors, are brave enough to sponsor the most moral podcast on the planet. We're just deputizing ourselves to take a bunch of charities, and they will be our sponsors. And by our sponsors, I mean they don't pay us or know that we're even doing this.
No, it means we're asking you to sponsor them.
Yes, you sponsor them. Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. It is a good cause and needs your money. Obviously, we love all of you who join on Patreon, patreon.com/badhasbara. But if you have money to spare, please, if you're considering, do I give money to pcrf.net or do I give money to Bad Hasbara? Start with pcrf.net and then, work your way to joining the Patreon.
Hierarchy of need.
That's right. Each according to his whatever Marxism. Daniel, what's the spin? What's the spin this week?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Matt. The spin.
I'm glad
I am not at home, so I don't have my own records, but I'm staying with a friend somewhere in the American West.
Undisclosed location. We don't want any weirdos, any Mossad agents coming after you, any of the Shin Bet, even though they wouldn't operate outside, I think, of Israel.
Agreed. They never would. So I'm somewhere in the mountain time zone, and my friend has some records, so I just thought I'd pick a few off the shelf, and so I got Billy Joel, Piano Man.
Oh, the Piano Man.
I was listening to Glass Houses, his album, on my drive out here as I drove through Maryland or West Virginia or something, and I was thinking of what Matt Christman always used to say about him, which is that every single song is him either like condescendingly speaking about a woman who's like a complete pain in the ass, but he loves her anyway, or him telling someone kind of like, fuck you, I'm better than you, like you may be right, I may be crazy, like this is, and all these songs he's got a real attitude. He's thought of as like a real softy and a kind of balladeer, but there is a real kind of snarky attitude to the guy. Anyway,
I love it.
So that's Piano
Is he
Man.
Italian? He feels Italian. He's Italian coded.
No, he's pretty much Jewish, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's not a difference. What's the difference?
He's Long Island, which is where those two ethnicities...
Yeah, they merged into one.
They merge and form something else, yeah.
Yeah.
Then I've got the Cabaret soundtrack, the Liza Minnelli, Joel Grey film.
Yeah.
And I think it includes every Israeli's favorite song these days, which is Tomorrow Belongs to Me.
Yeah, they love it.
That famous scene from the film where we rediscover all these nice-looking people enjoying a beer and a schnitzel. They're really Nazis. And then Chappell Roan, who I've never listened to, but I hear she's a Hottogo.
That's right.
So I might give this a listen.
Yeah,
So that's what's the spin. Just a little zoomer. You're never going to see me spinning this kind of stuff at home, but I'm open-minded.
You should spin Chappell Roan. She's actually pretty great. My wife is currently chapel pilled right now. She's been listening nonstop, and so I'm like, now I'm just kind of, it's in my head now, so I just enjoy it by osmosis. But also listen to the Piano Man, because what a man! He's always playing that piano.
And he's talking to Davy, who's still in the Navy and probably will be for life. All these characters.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't start.
Paul is a real estate novelist who never had time for a wife.
Yeah. And my friend's got a girlfriend, and he hates that bitch. That's the Offspring. I don't know why I consider those the same.
And I seen your mommy, and your mommy's dead. That's suicidal tendencies.
That's right. All I wanted was a Pepsi. Daniel. As we were talking about before, all the various shout outs, We're pretty blithe for some white guys. Thank you, producer Adam. Yeah, this has been, what a week. What a lot of things have gone on.
Yeah, I'm
and
not feeling very funny. I gotta say that up front.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not. I don't have like. Sometimes I come into these episodes kind of raring to go. Like,
oh, I
yeah,
know.
man, let's fucking take.
Yeah,
the
you're
piss,
like, I
let's
got
make some
puns,
jokes."
baby. I got do so many puns.
I got puns for days.
Yeah.
Today I'm like,
you need a hug.
Yeah, I'm
You
feeling
need a
more.
hug.
I'm feeling a little more hug needed. We'll see how we do with the puns.
I would love to give you a hug. Right now, obviously, you're far away. I cannot hug you, but soon we may be, in the same place together, and we might be hugging.
Yeah,
and that'll be nice.
Yeah, that's my happy place.
That is a nice, happy place in the arms of someone you pod with. And yeah,
in
so
the arms of the mad lead.
Fly away. So here is a tweet that Elon Levy did, which is just great. If you have Jewish friends, please give them a hug. Send them a message to check if they're okay. We are all crushed. Now, this
you know why I didn't see that tweet?
Why didn't you see that tweet?
Because he blocked me.
Oh, no. You
After
got blocked by Elon?
Oh, yeah. After accusing me publicly of threatening his life and sharing a screenshot of a DM I had with some rando where I said I would gladly see him hang in The Hague.
That's not threatening his life.
That's what I said to
wanting
him.
Justice.
I said, Elon, Habibi, Ali. I said, relax. I'm not a trained hangman.
Yeah.
I can't. That's not an actionable threat on my part.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's an event to which I would purchase tickets and go a
Yes, and
considerable
sit in the
distance.
front row and eat some popcorn and
to
just
support you.
Yes, I would be there and be like, "Oh, I wish I could give you a hug." This is something he actually tweeted back in January. He tweets this. He quote tweets this every so often whenever an event happens in which an Israeli is hurt. And as we all know, whenever an Israeli is hurt, it is not just Israel's problem; it is the world's problem. And,
Right. That's a new twist on the, when you kill a human being, you kill the whole world.
right? Yeah.
It's like when you kill a Jewish Israeli, you annoy the whole world.
You annoy the
For
whole
next-
world.
You're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you won't let the whole world stop hearing about it.
Yeah.
for the
Annoy
next month.
Olam.
Yeah.
And yeah, so because we felt the need, obviously, everyone needs hugs this week. We've invited someone to hug on this podcast, someone who we need to check in on. This is the associate editor at the Electronic Intifada, co-host of the weekly Electronic Intifada live stream, and now 3-time returning champion of Bad Hasbara. Ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
everyone else, welcome Nora Barrows-Friedman.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Nora wins. That's
Thank
exactly
you.
it.
Thank
Wow,
you.
you got it.
Yeah, I love the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I it was just one of those groups I never got into. I think I'm just a slightly too young, but I remember when that song Intergalactic came out, and I was like, okay, yeah.
Or maybe you're just
It's like
not
one
quite
of the
Jewish
worst
enough.
songs. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
No, I'm just
Well,
saying.
he's
I'm
half Jewish, so.
yeah,
True.
exactly.
The fact that you got into hip hop as a Jew
Yeah.
without the Beastie Boys as a gateway is
Well,
impressive.
no, you have to remember Eminem came out at the time
Oh.
of my awakening into hip hop. So I
That
was
is
still
such
able.
a generational divide. That is such a generational.
Yes.
A white guy gets into hip hop via Eminem versus you and me, Nora.
Beastie Boys.
With
Yeah,
the Beastie
the
Boys,
Beasties.
who had this fun, snarky, playful, goofy, very Ashkenazi, super ensconced in hip hop culture, very punk, somewhat ironic, but deeply loved the culture.
Yeah. No,
Recombinant.
I was so into the Beastie Boys that I had a huge crush on MCA. Rest in
God.
peace. And I wrote him a fan letter, just saying, I was just very, I don't know, moved, but I can't even remember what it was about. It was when Ill Communication came out.
Was it when he
And-
said, I I want to say something that's long overdue. This disrespecting women has got to be through.
Yeah,
to all the
exactly.
mothers and the sisters and the wives and friends, I want to send all my love and respect to the end.
Yes.
Wow.
I think
Right
it was
off
that.
the first song of the album. Yeah.
Yeah, because they had gone from, the like brass monkey days and the girls days.
yeah.
And
To
then,
do my laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To clean a bathroom.
Exactly.
I know that song.
Right. Yeah. It's a classic.
I thought that song made a lot of good points.
It was well argued. I have to say.
Yeah,
I mean,
well argued. That's
they
all
showed
I really
their-
want.
They showed their work.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. But I wrote him a letter just saying I loved him so much. And 3 weeks later, I got a postcard back from him. He was on the Lollapalooza tour.
I saw them on that tour.
Yeah, 93, 94.
94.
Something, 94.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still have it. It's framed in my living room.
That's so wonderful.
He was just really sweet. He was like in Vegas and he was writing fan letters back.
That's really nice. I wrote to Eminem, but he didn't write me back. So I killed my mom. I forget how that song goes.
But he wrote a song about you.
He wrote a song about me. Yeah, it was crazy, but
Aw.
Dear Matt.
yeah. Your biggest fan. This is Matt. I just drank a fifth of vodka. Dare me to do heroin next? So Nora, a lot has, speaking of Israel, Nora, you are a third-time returning champion. So glad
Amazing.
to have you.
Thank
Glad to have you back. This is the other two episodes you were on were Sans Daniel Mate,
Yeah.
and now Daniel Mate is here. So this is like this is a full-ass episode. We're all
great.
here, and we're ready to rock.
It's a dream come true.
Yeah, isn't it? What a
Honestly.
dream.
Yeah.
With our YouTube channel of 20,000 subscribers, it's not bad. But I wanted to ask, how come like I watch your live stream and it's really good and informative, but you guys don't do that many puns.
No.
I want to ask, how come you guys have so many more listeners than we do? What the fuck? Don't you find it a little unfair because we work so hard with puns?
You do. Yeah, we should try to incorporate more puns into the.
No, that's our
news
thing. Don't do
briefs
it.
that we- Yeah, I mean, we want to just take all of your.
No, don't
viewers.
take it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear some puns in Ali's voice.
Yeah. Have you heard him do the Israeli soldier voice that he does?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's great. It's great. You gotta-
Oh, I would love to hear that.
It's really
It's
good.
amazing. But on a serious note, we need to talk about the reason for the season, the most important thing that has ever happened in Jewish history. Six Israeli captives have died under mysterious circumstances in Gaza, and that has been something that has now been on the news cycle for, at this point, 4 days now. By the time this episode comes out, I'm assuming it'll be 7 days of the same story over and over, in which we are continuing to eulogize these captives. And that's not my way of saying they don't deserve to be eulogized, or they don't deserve to have people be sad about them. It's my way of saying it really seems, and this is just a hot take here, but it really seems like the lives of Israelis matter more than the lives of Palestinians.
Well, in fairness, Matt, before we get your answer now, these 6 Israelis did happen to have actual names. They were people with actual face, like these human beings had names and faces, and they had families,
Yeah.
And from what I've seen in Western media, that's just not true about the Palestinians who the Hamas-run health ministry say have been killed.
Yeah.
So it's just much easier for me to feel for them, given that they had those human attributes. And
Yeah,
I don't know
then
what it
there
is
was-
about Palestinian culture that doesn't give people names and specificities.
Well,
And
they
there's-
don't die. I mean, the
Right.
Palestinians. There are no dead Palestinian civilians.
No, it just doesn't.
and
It doesn't happen.
Even if there were,
Yeah.
it's like I'm sure it's their fault.
I'm sure there's at least
Yeah.
one book in their house that would lead me to believe they deserve to die.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, They don't have names, and they don't have pictures of them, on like vacation somewhere, with them like smiling.
Why don't they go on vacation somewhere?
I know, that's what I say to all Palestinians.
Go on the world.
Yes, go out, see the world.
Yeah.
And
broaden your mind and your horizons.
Yeah.
Meet
Yes.
someone
take a picture of you
who isn't a soldier.
Yeah, take a picture of you smiling at the, at Machu Picchu, right? Or at a sunny beach somewhere, and then come back to Gaza and then die.
Mhm.
And then maybe the news media, and also change your name to like, Craig Johnson or something.
Mhm.
And then, maybe people would remember your name and look upon you as a human being.
Maybe find some American parents too.
Yeah.
America, aren't they from the Bay Area too? Like those
Palestinians?
Yeah. No. I was thinking the one of the guys. The only people who die are the Israelis.
That's right.
Yes.
It's very tragic.
Yeah.
Now there have been
And it is
I
tragic. Like no jokes aside.
Yes, no, people dying is bad and tragic.
People dying after 11 months of captivity. I
Yes.
told you this, Matt, but I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, right now, I was in jail
Mm.
for 3.5 weeks in Mexico City. I was
Oh yeah.
I was incarcerated by the Immigration and Naturalization Services of Mexico for overstaying my tourist visa. And I had COVID in there. I think today
Yeah.
might be the 3-year anniversary of me finding out that I was staying an extra 15 days because of COVID.
Yeah.
And it was not the worst incarceration experience by any means. It was a wild night at Carlos and Charlie's. But the experience of, even for a brief amount of time, and 24 days is not the longest, it's not the shortest, to experience having any rights or freedoms taken away,
Yeah.
and the fear and the uncertainty and when's this going to end. I have a sense of that in my body. I have a sense, just a tiny taste. Now, nothing like what it is to
Right.
be an Israeli held in a tunnel, and by God knows, nothing like living in a concentration camp your whole life, like if you're born in Gaza. But we on this podcast are not, we're not trying to
We're not trying to dehumanize anyone.
dehumanize or laugh at
Yeah.
or make
Well-
light of the suffering of those people or their families.
Right.
No.
And the fact that you're saying that you're expressing care and concern for human beings, that's more than the Israeli government has expressed for their own captives.
Correct.
In
100%.
the tunnels the last 11 months. And personally, I don't really care. I don't
Yeah.
care
Yeah.
about the Israeli captives. I don't.
Mhm.
They shouldn't have been partying in just outside a concentration camp.
Sure.
They
sure.
shouldn't have been settling in these, basically like, army barracks masquerading as kibbutzim
Mhm.
around Gaza. They shouldn't have been settling in someone else's land, and they get 100% of the world's attention. They get situation room,
Consideration.
consideration, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that like thing with Biden and
Oh yeah.
Pamela, looking very sternly in the situation room,
Mhm.
saying that when Americans are killed, that crosses a red line. Completely forgetting about all the Americans over the last, I don't know, few decades who have been killed by the Israelis.
Right.
And they don't get a fucking situation room consideration. At
Also,
all.
they need to come up with a new color for the lines, because the red lines
Yeah,
aren't even
yeah.
a red line.
Yes.
Exactly.
There needs to be a different color.
Exactly. Yeah.
Priority number one, I would say.
Yeah.
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 Uh,
Totally.
no, I-
we need to rebrand it. Yeah.
Yes. But I completely get where you're coming from, Nora, because I find myself stuck in a thing where I know intellectually that I care about the suffering of people, no matter who they are, right?
Sure.
And I understand intellectually what happens when you grow up in a society in which everyone just pretends as if apartheid isn't happening, and they
Right.
just are like living with the contradiction of being like, but I'm a peace, I'm someone who supports peace, and doing a rave next to the wall of a concentration
Yeah.
camp. So it's like I on an intellectual level, I feel for people who are uh stuck in a way in a way of thinking due to
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
where they were born and whatnot.
Exactly. Their conditions. Yeah.
Their
for sure.
conditions. On the other hand, I am not going to sit here and look at this, tweet from Elon Levy about how all Jews are crushed.
No.
And I'm not going to not mock that, because
Right.
I'm sorry. This is once again the conflation of Israel's problem is world Jewry's problem is your problem.
Right.
And, at this point, after 11 months, is there anyone who wasn't already predisposed to believing everything that the Israeli government says? Is there anyone who is taking it seriously that Israel has been desperately trying to get back these captives? No, there's just not, like, no one who's been paying attention to this for the last 11 months truly believes that Elon Levy is crushed about this. This was something that at this point, I'm like, they were hoping for to add more fuel to the fire, to make sure that there is this constant drumbeat of outrage amongst Jews in the diaspora and amongst world governments in the West, to be like, just remember, the true victims here are us, the Israeli government, and you as people in the West who are fighting against the Muslim hordes of of savages, right? So it's like to look at just the amount of saccharine sadness that people like Elon Levy are displaying. This is one of my favorite tweets he put out. So Melissa Weiss wrote, "It's raining in Tel Aviv this morning for the first time in months," and Elon wrote, "The sky is crying."
Stevie Ray Vaughan over here. Look, I actually
is crying right now because the sky is sad because of the Israelis.
because our sky god is running shit.
The sky was pretty much cool with all the dead Palestinian babies happening day after day after day for 11 months, but now sky crying.
You know what? Look up there. What do you see? Skyonism.
Yeah.
Skyness. We need to build a
Skynet. We need to build a Skynet that can go in and destroy all the bad guys.
I believe he is crushed, but I believe he's crushed in a way that he enjoys. It's a kind of he's a
pain piggy.
Well, in a sense, yes, because there's a kind of autoerotic, self-pitying thing that goes on with Zionism. They need these moments because they actually happen so infrequently. If you're a Palestinian, you wake up in the morning and the chances that you're going to go through the day and not find out that innocent people were slaughtered in the most barbaric ways are close to nil, and the chances that you're going to find out that you're going to know that people are incarcerated in dungeons and being tortured are exactly nil. If you're an Israel apologist, these are your fuel source, these moments, and you get them relatively infrequently. I mean, they sure wanted reports of rape coming out of the Hamas tunnels, and all they would get is hostages being released and being like, you motherfuckers didn't negotiate to get us released sooner. Right. And even the hostages filmed these ones. Was it Eden Avrahami or whatever her name was? Released a very, Hamas released a very angry video from her being like, even in her last few days, blaming her own government. They don't get the hit they want. When they get this kind of real horrific loss,
right?
That's a win.
100%.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask Nora, following this, obviously, as soon as I heard this happening, all of the reports from the Hasbara were that Hamas summarily executed them, which may or may not be true.
We don't know
And
yet. Yeah.
yeah, and so we're still in this moment, obviously, where it is early enough that we don't know what happened here. And you can tell me your thoughts on this, but my thoughts in general are, because there are people who are denying, no, I bet it wasn't Hamas. I bet it was the Israeli government, which is absolutely possible. I mean, you really, at this point,
Yeah.
every
I mean,
time.
they've killed at least 60 of their own already in
Yes.
airstrikes
Right.
since October. Yeah.
And they've also, shot their own hostages on multiple occasions, and it's always there's an excuse there of like, oh well, we didn't know it was them or whatnot, but it was always under strange circumstances. And so I guess my thoughts are like, rather than denying whether or not Hamas did it, I was thinking about how one of the stories that I've heard was there was a rescue operation that was planned, and before the rescue operation could actually be put into action, as they were maybe closing in on the tunnels where they had them, that they were executed.
Which, if true,
is how hostages works.
Yeah, and anyone remember the Nusrat massacre?
Yeah,
right.
It was 270 people.
For 3.
Yeah.
Yes. And if by just math alone, doubling that might be something that Hamas would want to avoid. But also, is this not how this is the implicit threat when holding a captive and trying to trade them for other Palestinian captives? Is like, we have them, therefore their lives are in our hands, and
you have to listen to us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say that, like, the executing of prisoners or something is not a war crime. It's more to say that, like, this is apparently 3 of the 6 hostages were supposed to be in a deal for an exchange early on,
including
that
Hirsch.
was rejected by Israel. And it's 11 months later, and this happens, and the Israeli government acts like, how could they do this? And it's like, isn't this what they were going to do? How is this not more widespread is the real question.
Yeah. The amount of restraint
yes.
and patience that the Qassam brigades have shown is quite extraordinary. When you look at that in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, like Israel could have gotten their captives back on October 8th. They could have. That was the deal on the table.
Yeah.
And for the last 11 months, Israel has decided that it would rather sacrifice their captives, however many are left, in order to carry out the long-standing plan of completely genociding Gaza.
Yes.
And then what they're doing now in this past week is moving that genocidal plan also to the West Bank, which is their real prize, which is the thing that they've been wanting all along.
Yeah.
I mean, so and then it's spun. It's spun as once again, Hamas doesn't take the ceasefire deal, right, or like whatever. When 100% of the time it has been Israel's moving of the goalposts, saying that the only ceasefire deal that Israel will accept will be one that is maintaining the genocidal attacks and not ceasing the fire and maintaining the the separation inside Gaza, military presence, again, no end to the siege, which has been going on for 17 and a half years. So, but that's spun as Hamas as being unreasonable.
Right. And
it's extraordinary.
One of the sticking points that consistently changes within these negotiations seems to be like what Israel decides is their new red line, and it's always something that is like a non-negotiable thing that is just completely out of left field. In this case, it was the Philadelphi Corridor, which was what
Also known as the New Jersey Turnpike.
well, also known as New Jersey Turnpike.
Which fucking, I don't give a shit. Take it.
Yeah, like who wants it? It did one good
All this
thing.
for a turnpike.
I mean, fine. Okay, fine. Leave me the Woodrow Wilson service welcome
No,
center rest stop.
Take it all, dude.
Okay, fine.
There's only one good thing the New Jersey Turnpike ever did, and it was provide the intro setting for The Sopranos.
Yeah.
That's it.
Woke up this morning, got yourself a 2,000-pound bomb.
That's right. But yeah, so it's this Philadelphia corridor was what Netanyahu was blaming. He gave a speech recently in which he speaking of the West Bank, the plan for the West Bank, he displayed a map in which the West Bank was not even in existence on it, which I thought was telling. But he also talked about the Philadelphia corridor as his one of his excuses as to why they couldn't work with Hamas because they wanted this corridor. And
Is this when he went on TV and did the weather report?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically. Yeah.
And yes, yeah. In the north, it is sunny. Yeah, in the south, it is.
The sky is crying.
The sky is crying and cloudy with a chance of acid rain. And
The chances of humanitarian considerations in the south are next to nothing.
Next.
Um,
But here is a video of that conference.
The axis of evil needs the Philadelphia Corridor. And for that reason, we must control the Philadelphia Corridor.
I don't know what accent I'm doing.
Hamas insists for that reason we will not be there. And for that reason, I insist we will be there.
this is great negotiating.
Philadelphia Corridor. We will not bother your viewers too much, Amy, because nobody heard about the Philadelphia Corridor as such a huge, fatal subject until 2 weeks ago.
It's always
The gang does a genocide.
Yes, the gang does a genocide. But yeah, just like this is, there's always an arbitrary sticking
Can you
point, it
imagine
seems
Danny
like.
DeVito as an RDF spokesperson?
Oh my god! Oh my god! That would be so funny. Oh,
Danny DeVito almost sounds like some kind of newfangled
Danny
Hebrew name.
DeVito. Oh, dude, they would do it too. They're cool. Yeah, it is. It just always seems there's an arbitrary line that we're all supposed to be like. It only serves for the Hasbaras, especially in the West, to go like, oh, you really expect them to do a ceasefire with people who won't give up the Philadelphia Corridor?
What is the Philadelphia Corridor, Nora?
It's in the South, right?
I asked
Yeah,
Nora,
it's-
Matt. I asked
it's-
Nora. This is for the guest to answer. She
So
knows
it's a
things.
strip of land on the border between Gaza and Egypt, on the very south of Gaza, where they have been trying. I mean, Rachel Corrie in 2003 was run over by a bulldozer, an Israeli armored D9 Caterpillar bulldozer, trying to protect a Palestinian family's home from the Israelis who were bulldozing land to widen the Philadelphia corridor, which they're trying. So there's, along the southern border with Gaza and along the eastern boundary with so-called Israel, it's kind of like these buffer zone.
You guys at the Electronic Intifada are so based. We
So
we don't use those quote marks. We don't say that crumbling
So-called.
Zionist. We're like, okay, fine, you're Israel for now.
For now.
You got-
For now.
I'm trying
Enjoy
to
it while it lasts.
I'm
Right,
trying
exactly.
to institute a style guide in which we either call it Israel or It's Not Real.
It's not real.
or shit
Yeah,
real.
that's
Is it shit real?
yeah, shit real. That's pretty good. I mean,
No,
yeah.
Does that make us
that's-
libs? Does that make us liberal Zionists because we don't use the quote marks?
No.
I don't recognize its right to exist. I recognize the fact of its current existence.
Right, existence.
I
Right,
just,
present day Israel. Right. Yeah.
No, I just use less words, so Israel's fine.
Sorry,
just like saying
sorry to
so-called
interrupt,
because
but I
it's
just
great.
get
No, it's perfect.
Yeah,
So anyway, so it's like this buffer zone sort of area that is just kind of like squeezing the general landmass of Gaza, more narrow and narrow. But they want the Philadelphi Corridor A to control, the movement of Palestinians across the Egyptian side of the border. They want to, of course, it's a huge plan to stop the tunnel smuggling routes under there. This is not a new thing, but it's also like it hasn't really been a military priority until about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's one more way that they're trying to permanently alter
Yes.
the landscape of Palestine and Gaza in particular.
Right. Because it has
and make
nothing
it
to do
smaller
with
and
the
smaller.
October 7th attacks. It is
absolutely not.
completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
The attacks did not come from the
Well,
Philadelphia
they weren't going into
corridor.
Egypt. They were
No. And
Yeah.
and according to I showed a little clip of Gideon Levy in that interview with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now. But he, says in there, it's like, no, where the Gazans escaped on October 7th was from the most heavily fortified area of the wall.
That's right.
So,
In like 47 different
entry points.
entry points. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like 47 different ways that they broke through the fence in really what was a coordinated prison break.
Mhm.
But it was all north and east. It wasn't
Right.
down to the Sinai. So
Right.
yeah,
I'm
this is
sorry,
just
that's like a really exciting video game mission.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if someone just changed the names or whatever, you just create that setup where your people are immured inside a concentration camp, and you have to get out there and do like a targeted operation. And maybe you could put the things in that you maybe you get demerits if there's unnecessary civilian death. But
Sure.
hey, all in the game. Like that would be.
I'm
I can
telling
imagine
you
that
right
being a
now-
very
That's
that would be a
right.
very compelling
it's
game.
It was a highly coordinated, event.
Yeah, Daniel, I've literally had this exact thought, and it's like in the darkest corner of my Western, white boy brain,
Yeah.
where I'm just like, if this were any other situation,
Mhm.
we would all be like, that's a cool thing that happened with the video game to come with it, like
There'd already
just
be movies
you-
out about it. Yeah.
Well, come
You
on,
would-
the
you-
paragliders already.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
the morning of, I was like, this isn't gonna go well, and this is
Yeah.
gonna have terrible consequences.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm scared, and I hope there isn't.
I hope
a
there
lot
isn't
of
a genocide.
bloodshed.
Yeah.
I hope there isn't a genocide. But also, I was like, I hope like non-combatant kibbutzniks don't die here today.
Right.
And
Sure.
fucking hell, look at those guys
Yeah.
up in the air.
And at the
Just
very least,
extraordinary.
Good for them.
Like I
Yeah.
said, the dark part of my brain is just
Yeah.
like that's
Let me play it.
that's a video game. That's a video game level for like pieces of shit like me in the West to enjoy. You know what I mean? Like it is. It's dark, obviously, due to the consequences and the evil that has been perpetrated on the Palestinians in Gaza since. But it's just like this is
Yeah.
in any
It
other
was an extraordinary
right, and it had nothing to do with
It
the
was-
Philadelphia fucking corridor.
No, it really didn't.
It
It really didn't, except for the fact that part of the demands of Palestinians who were, engaging in the prison break were, a prisoner exchange
Mhm.
and the end to the siege, which
Yes.
absolutely
Right.
is connected to the Philadelphia
Philadelphia
corridor,
corridor,
in
yes.
that way.
Yes,
Where
exactly.
Israel has controlled the movements of goods in and
Right.
out of Gaza from various crossing points, including Rafah crossing, which is
Right.
at the border with Egypt, for 17 years.
Right. It is just, it is so clearly that, the line that Netanyahu is drawing is arbitrary in terms of its connection to, stopping another October 7th, but also very calculated to make sure that they continue, to control Gaza and keep the siege going.
I do like this negotiating move. Invaded by inventions from Tears of the Kingdom. I was just going to say it's very Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Get your Zonites together and fucking assemble some kind of... Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but just murk on those Israeli bokoblins. Kibbutznik bokoblins. But I do like this negotiating move. It's so dark. It's so dark, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? But this negotiating move, I'm saying... That is exactly what Hamas wants. So that is exactly what I do not want. Because you can just take that all the way and be like, Hamas has offered a complete and total cessation of hostilities.
Yeah.
They have agreed to negotiate along the two-state solution, UN 242, which Hamas has at various times indicated willingness to talk. And therefore, they want peace between our peoples. And therefore, that is what I do not want.
We will not
Hamas differentiates between Judaism and Zionism. That's what I don't want.
And
exactly.
Well, and literally.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's actually, but he leaves himself open to a really sticky, duck season, rabbit season sort of trickery, So, he better be careful or, Hamas wants there to be a two-state solution with separate religious and ethno-religious entities. And that is exactly what we do not want. So we will do one-state solution, a secular, pluralist democracy where all peoples live together.
No. Right.
Full circle,
The reverse psychology thing.
It's duck season, rabbit season, dude. Straight up Looney Tunes style. Before we continue on talking more about this, recent turn of events, we do have to take a quick commercial break because people need to buy products that are digitally inserted into the podcast. So
depending on what territory you're in, as I've been driving through the various U.S. states on my way from New York to Wyoming, sometimes I'll check out an old About Hasbara episode, maybe one that I wasn't on or one that I fondly remember being on.
Sure.
And it's crazy because it turns out targeted advertisements are by location.
That's right. That's how it go.
Yeah. Like Waffle House ads.
Exactly. So everyone,
Hobby Lobby.
Listen to these Hobby Lobby Waffle House ads and stick around because we will be right back. And we're back. Welcome back to the world's most moral podcast. We're here with Nora Barrows-Friedman.
Nora, your name doesn't
the Barrow boy. I'm sorry.
Doesn't Nora in Hebrew mean like horrible?
Oh, I thought it meant light. That's what I was always told.
Well, I don't know. Horrible light, maybe.
But that makes total sense. Yes.
Zelo Nora. I think that means it's not so bad.
I'll have to ask because my mom was like, no, it means, light.
It might mean it might be two different spellings.
In Arabic too, nur is light. So it's like one of those like cousin.
Oh, lehadlik ner, right? Like
Shabbat.
To kindle the light. So there is that root, but I think also in Israeli Hebrew there's a spelling of it that means like awful, which is
well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like everything good about Judaism, Zionism is hijacked into something awful. I mean,
it's true. And also some Jews like you have decided to do awful things like work for a publication that is trying to kill us all.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I get told almost every day that I'm a traitor, that I'm a capo.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call my kid Capo. That'll just be his first name.
Oh, I like, I think I saw there was somebody.
You're a Capo. Yes, I am.
That's right.
That's what my mommy says.
There's a Holocaust survivor who's against, who's like an anti-Zionist. and I think his last name is Capo. And I remember
Really?
being like, damn it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's when you should actually.
Yeah, no, it's
change
like,
your
no.
name.
Someone
Yeah.
needs to make a series of capo capos, for acoustic
Yeah.
guitars.
For
Yeah.
guitarists.
Stupid.
Nora, how did you come to work for the EI?
My origin story. I think I told this story to Matt a few episodes ago.
Okay,
but,
well then never mind.
No,
it's fine.
do
Just
it, do
the
it.
first. I mean, the quick and easy, dirty version is that I have been a journalist working on Palestine issues over 20 years now, which is nuts. And I was working at KPFA in Berkeley, California, for a
Pacifica?
long time, Pacifica. And it was the height of the Second Intifada, and there was so much going on with the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, and I just kind of took Palestine under my wing and started going there several times a year for about 8 years, doing reporting, and and then in 2010. I switched jobs and was hired at the Electronic Intifada. So I've been there for almost 15 years now, which
Wow.
is crazy.
You know what's crazy is that it's it's not, I guess, is it a blog? I never know what to call things anymore because
It's a news site, yeah?
It's a news
It's a
site.
publication. Yeah.
Right. It's a publication.
It's like the Gray Zone.
it's-
It's like Drop
Yeah.
Site. It's like
Yeah.
these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's an online website with words that doesn't seem to have been bought out by
Right.
private equity and destroyed.
Yes.
Which is like something that you can say that's a positive consequence of having your subject matter be so not normalized in the West that even private equity doesn't want to like gobble it up and destroy it. Like they do that with everything else. If you wrote, a music magazine or about movies, my friend Vince Mancini, who I do the Rewatch podcast with, he made a website called Film Drunk. It first got bought by Uprocks, and then Uprocks got like bought by multiple private equity groups and destroyed. They just stripped everything, including his amazing film blog, Film Drunk. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, you should have written more about Israel. Then they wouldn't have touched
Then they wouldn't
it.
have touched you. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you
Yeah,
could
I
have
mean,
or you could have a site like The Intercept, which has starts out with a broader mission to
Right.
combat the deep state and the security state and all this kind of stuff. But even that is very easy to water down bit by bit. There's plenty of places where you can poke holes in it, and
Right.
well, we don't need to get into that whole
But if
story.
you water
but
something down enough, then eventually that private equity starts coming in and going like, oh, it looks like you guys have a product here that I can
Mhm. Don't you wanna
destroy.
get-
especially if
more?
it starts out
Right.
with billionaire funding to begin with.
Yes.
Yes.
But with you guys, you have this one airtight topic
Yeah.
that unless Ali was about to do the world's biggest heel turn and come around,
No.
that would be a funny sketch.
Yeah,
to see
no,
Ali
that
when
would
he would
be-
come out with
yeah.
like a conciliatory, like, to
He's
my
hanging
dear
out-
Israeli brothers and sisters.
God.
He starts hanging out with the son of Hamas.
Next April, can I suggest
Jesus.
next April 1st?
For
Can I
April
write?
Fools.
Can I write you a script for him?
Well, I do
As
hope
the great David Broza sang,
Oh my God. Incredible.
I would
You
say
that would be extraordinary.
It would be very
yeah,
funny.
That would be.
I think a mark of progress on this topic being normalized would be that someday private equity would want to buy out the Electronic Intifada
And
destroy it.
still, because we have principles and morals, we wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, but it would
We
be
are,
nice.
yeah.
It'd be nice to be asked because then you would at least know that, like, oh, the
The
subject
tide
is
has turned.
the tide has turned. It's like we are hoping for the. That's the best we can hope for, Nora.
Exactly.
The best we can hope for is that crooked media hits us up and says, "Hey guys, we love your takes of when you
Yeah.
call Israel Israel.
Right.
Can you guys please join the Obama administration's favorite podcast network?"
Can you imagine?
That would be so
Oh my
funny.
God. No.
Uh,
no.
Pod Save Israel.
But
Yeah,
yeah, God save Israel.
Oh,
So
God.
to continue talking about what was happening with all this, Bibi, in his speech to everyone about like, because protests have broken out in Israel, in which more people taken to the streets. It's like the most since post October 7th.
Which was the
and
most since Lebanon.
right.
Now, I have questions for Nora about these protests, but
Yes, please.
would that be a good moment?
Yeah, now's a good moment.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you were going
Well,
with that.
well,
but-
no. All I was going with it is like I have video I download from internet of protests.
Oh,
and
great.
it's called
Perfect. Let's look at
Protest,
them.
And here's protests.
Oh,
And they're sitting in the street. They're doing a sit-in, and they're being sprayed by skunk water or something.
Oh, I thought that was shampoo.
I thought it was cum at first, but I was like, no, there was no way they would waste good Israeli Jewish cum. They like to preserve it. So big protests going on, and obviously there's a lot of thoughts on the demands of the Israeli people on that, and how they seem to be very focused on like Netanyahu bad and not so much on are we bad, which is an interesting question.
are we?
So this is what I want to ask about. So just a mini little monologue here to get to a question.
Hell yeah.
Nora. So I've seen all kinds of responses to this. But I have to start with my own first just gut reaction, which is good for them for being out there. There's no political analysis to this whatsoever. Okay. This is just sort of on a human
Straight gut
and straight whatever my actual psychology. Like I talk a good game on this podcast, right? Good anti-Zionist, all this shit. But I was still born and bred in a kibbutz-oriented Zionist summer camp. I still was raised to like Israelis, basically, to hope the best for that society, to want to believe that there's an emergent, somewhere in there, a seed of possibility for whatever.
Right.
So that's in there. There's a lot. It's a complicated space in me around all this, right? I'm not saying it's right. So, but I see all that, and I'm like, good for them. And then I see people posting, don't believe it for a second, they're not protesting genocide. And then I think, okay, they're not protesting genocide. But it's one step closer to that country crumbling in on itself.
Yeah, they're one step closer to the edge, and they're about to break.
And to be truthful, we may not like it. It's not the moral ideal, but most domestic populations don't protest out of much more than the self-interest side of things. Like there were people in the Vietnam movement who were protesting, like we're massacring Vietnamese villagers, but a lot more was our boys are coming home in body bags and we're spending all this money on it and it's rotting away at our society. So the fact that they're not using, and some Israelis are using the term genocide. I saw some street graffiti at those protests that said stop the genocide, free Gaza, like that was on a Tel Aviv street. So it's there. I think there's a part of me that wants to exaggerate how much of that is there. And the more I hear from actual Israelis, they're like, don't overestimate it. It's not that much. It's mostly people being like, but at the same time, I'm just like, okay, good. Dissension in the ranks, crumbling of the conformity, fury at that government, and reacting to the death of 6 hostages by lashing out at their own government rather than bloodthirsty pitchfork, let's go into Gaza and do more shit. Well, that's a sign that in some ways Hamas's indirect aims in a roundabout way might be being achieved because they're losing Israel's losing the confidence of its own people. And I'm looking for signs of that the facade, the edifice is crumbling. So there's a lot of different strategic, moral, personal, emotional, human, whatever, and some of them are just completely subjective and are going to depend on the standpoint of the person reacting. But what's your response to all of this? What do you think is a sober-minded and morally consistent response to seeing this kind of outburst on the streets of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem?
I think that was so thoughtful, the way that you laid that out, because I think that's, I mean, I have so much seething rage in my heart these days.
Sure.
That it's, my first reaction to those protests, and they've been happening sporadically over the last 11 months is like kind of what you said, like, they're not saying stop the genocide. They're saying, this is making us look bad, and we don't like how our government is responding to certain events.
Well, and it's
especially
causing our soldiers
exactly all of
suffering.
it,
It's
exactly.
traumatizing us. It's not bringing our soldiers home. And
Right.
at the outer limits of the mainstream, it would be like it's causing a lot of death and suffering over there too.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Which is
exactly. So
unnecessary.
there's exactly, and it's so there is that for sure, and but there's also, I think it also kind of points to this wider war of attrition that Hamas is waging and winning. And,
Yes.
along with other elements of the axis of resistance, Hezbollah, Iran, Yemen, which is doing incredible things for Israel's economy, where they are seeing their economy, their society completely collapsing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I don't understand economic data, but from what I hear from people who do and who study this stuff closely, Israel's economy is never, ever, even if the war stops today, it will never recover. It is so far in the red. Talk about a red line, right? That they can't, like their credit ratings for all the global, Fitch and the other ones have all, they keep like demoting Israel's standings.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Those fucking Jews that control the world
Yeah.
economy keep
No, right? Exactly.
pissing on
right.
Israel.
That's right. So anti-Semitic. But
Just
also they're
Netanyahu,
like
the Jews who control the world banks.
exactly.
We must stop them.
I would like to recommend a book to every citizen of this country. The protocols.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's kind of incredible. They, not just like their credit ratings are in the toilet, but also, this whole like the Hasbara thing of the startup nation over the last,
Right.
15, 20 years, that is gone. That is
Yeah.
done.
Yeah,
All-
that ended during the
every single
the
one.
WeWork documentary that came out. Everyone's
That's
just like, oh wait, I don't trust Israelis to be.
It's a bad business investment. Like
yeah.
the risks associated with being invested in
Right.
anything Israeli are too high for capitalism to kind of contend with.
Crazy.
So all of these like tech companies are bailing. They're moving to the US or Europe, or they're disbanding altogether. Something like at last count, 46,000 businesses had folded.
Wow.
Just in the first like 3 months, I believe, 3 to 5 months of the genocide.
I mean, a lot of this is also due to reservists
Yeah.
being like thinking they were going to do 2 weeks in Gaza,
Right.
doing some mass shootings and then come back home.
Right, and come back, and they're on their like 6th or 7th or 10th tour.
Yeah.
And the way that the reservists are paid, so like if a reservist guy is like some project manager at some startup in Tel Aviv, and he gets like sent to the front lines in Gaza, the army pays his full salary for the entire time
Wow.
that he's in that tank.
Wow.
And so
Bubble upon bubble.
exactly. So it's kind of, so then the army is bleeding money along with soldiers.
Yeah.
And then the companies are also bleeding money because they don't have employees, and nobody's investing in them anymore. And so they're going bankrupt.
And when their employees come back, they're going to be Looney Tunes.
Right. If they come back. That's
they
right.
come back.
Yeah.
If they come back. So it's like, and of course, like construction, which has been like also one of Israel's like main things. They're always building, these settlements and high-rise towers in Tel Aviv and like all these things. Construction has basically stopped since October because the majority of the workers, the construction workers,
Are now
were
destruction
Palestinians
workers.
from the West Bank. Exactly. And they haven't, their work permits were stopped on October 9th or whatever.
Oh, interesting. So they're
right.
actually Palestinians, construction workers.
Mostly
These are
Palestinian laborers.
with work permits.
Right. So that's done.
Wow.
So their construction industry is also flagging.
Yeah.
And then their infrastructure itself is completely crumbling. So like they're, and
Yeah.
like all the settlements in the north that Hezbollah has been pounding,
Right.
nobody's going to go back there.
No.
So, so
And
like,
the Gaza envelope or whatever,
right.
those kibbutzim in
Yeah.
the south,
No, they're not,
which
no one's going to go back
which
there.
probably include the one that I lived on for
That's
10
right.
months in 93, 94.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
see, everything you're saying actually feels good to me, and here's why.
Yeah. It's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
It's what keeps me
and-
from sticking a gun in my mouth. Yeah.
and this is just my standpoint, and like
Yeah.
I get why someone like Ali or my Palestinian friends or people who are unaffiliated but in solidarity with Palestine would be looking to the day when this entity will be thoroughly and soundly crushed and defeated and humiliated,
Yes.
and there will be consequences to pay, including for the so-called innocent
Right.
citizens of that nation, because it's a conscript army and no one is fully. I get that completely.
Right.
I can't get there. I just can't get
Yeah.
there yet,
Yeah.
if ever. I'm not against, just like I'm not going to condemn Hamas for October 7th. I'm not going to condemn anyone for wishing very ill things upon that country, which is in ideology and in effect and in function and in fucking affect a very evil place, despite the fact that I know lots of nice people who live there and good.
Right.
Same.
But
Yep.
what warms my heart is the notion of it crumbling from the inside.
Yeah.
It
Mm.
no longer being able to sustain itself. And it's not just for the sake of saving the lives of some Israel, because for all I know, that could result in a bigger bloodbath, a civil war. I mean, what they'd be capable of doing to each other, it could be horrible. But any attack from the outside, anytime it's pain inflicted by Palestinians or Arabs or whatever, or the outside world, it reinforces the Israeli narrative. It gives it another infusion of adrenaline. It's like an EpiPen to the chest of a comatose patient. Of like,
Sure.
oh, okay, back, fight or flight, whatever. As it crumbles from the inside,
Mhm.
who are you going to blame?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well-
and there's a kind of,
Yeah.
for me, somewhere in there, there's a tiny little vein that might lead to some kind of awakening that says we can't do this anymore. And in my heart of hearts, that's what I want for these cousins of mine, these
Right.
distant cousins of mine who have gone so far astray. I want them to wake up. And people will call me a
Right.
normalizer and say, I'm trying to save the souls of Israelis and you can't do that. And I'm trying to, it sounds to them like something liberal. No, I'm actually hoping for a kind of cleansing catastrophe. But I think that the most cleansing one will be very much coming from the inside.
Yeah. You're
so
hoping
that's-
for
yeah.
an emotional genocide.
An emotional pesticide, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like wipe out this fucking virus.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. I completely understand where you're coming from, Daniel, because it is, for me, I don't like to engage in the conversations with people online who are just constantly looking for a reason to if you show any empathy at all towards like the Israelis as human beings, they're just like, you're a piece of shit, and it's just like I just don't engage because I'm like I don't know you. You have 1,000 reasons why you think the way you think. If you are even a person, like it could be a bot or whatever, but it's like I I definitely feel you wanting to watch Israel eat itself and
Yes.
but I do think it works in tandem with these.
Sure.
I mean, you don't
yeah.
have October 7th, and
Correct.
then you don't have what's happening now.
That's 100% correct. Which is why
And
which is why I'm not going to condemn the other thing.
Right?
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
But it is interesting watching. I think you're on to something here because you see the Benjamin Netanyahu speech that he's given and kind of the Hasbara line that's come out in the last few days with regard to the 6 captives who were killed, which has been to, hey, everyone, stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at the Israeli government. Stop yelling at me.
Hostage
remember who
families, stop calling me out in your eulogies.
Yes, please stop calling me out. And remember,
Have some decorum.
for the West, remember who the real enemy is, and it's the axis of evil. And so there's
Yeah,
been this.
it's not a lot of comfort for those families. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why are you getting
Yeah.
mad at me when you should
Yeah.
be mad at this guy?
Yeah.
That is
God.
that is an AI image created by
unbelievable.
Israel Katz, who is the deputy foreign minister of Israel, I believe.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, isn't
Totally
the
normal
octopus
guy.
isn't the octopus an anti-Semitic?
Yes.
It is.
The literal Nazis came up with that in the 1930s to
Yes.
stoke hatred and fear of Jewish people. Like,
Fucking find another unkosher sea creature.
they're just like, they're so, I mean, like Daniel, you and your dad wrote that whole book about trauma response and like,
Yeah,
you know, like how
they're
textbook is this,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And
Just
and
so
it's-
unoriginal.
Yes, and it is funny because you just see what the limits of Zionist thinking there. You see in like plainly that their thinking is never again only applies to us.
Right.
Racism's only bad if it's anti-Semitism. And so we're allowed to do literally everything that
Yeah.
the Nazis did because the target is not us. It is
Right,
them. And it's like,
right.
oh, so you've learned nothing.
Nothing.
You've learned nothing. And so here's
Nothing.
another one he made. The octopus of
Christ.
terror. He cannot stop asking AI to make octopuses of his Arab enemies. And it-
Octopuses are highly intelligent,
They are, and
clever,
sweet.
like
Yes.
sweet.
like, can we stop
Just
the fucking-
stop. What the,
the
hell?
anti-octopus Hasbara here? Like the Nazis were wrong for making it anti-Semitic, but they were also wrong for making it a negative to be an octopus.
Yeah,
They got lots of arms.
yeah,
They can do all sorts of things. They can change colors.
that's right.
Have you seen my octopus teacher, Hitler? Clearly not.
Well, but come on, Matt. I mean, pigs are sweet and intelligent, but are we going to stop
That's
calling
true.
cops that?
That's
well,
true.
I mean, that's true. But then again, we also call our listeners that. So,
That's true.
you know,
That's true.
we contain multitudes.
Multitudes.
But so there's been a few of these videos that have come
Swine
out.
off in the comments.
Yeah, swine off in the comments. A few of these videos that I've seen with kind of the same talking points. I'm going to play one from first Elon Levy, which this is a speech that he gave in Australia, I think a couple days ago. And here's
Oh,
this.
they were made for each other, him and that country.
The mix
Perfect.
on this is so bad. I'm so surprised he put it out because the music is just overpowering his speaking. But let's play a little
How
bit of
much
it.
pain to mourn the savage execution of 6 hostages. We have to take that grief and move from grief to rage and from rage to determination. You need to trust your brothers and sisters in Israel that they will put all pressure
Hold
on
on.
their government.
Hold on. Hold on.
We need to move from
worst,
grief to rage.
worst therapist in the world.
I know.
You're feeling a lot of vulnerability right now. You're really feeling your feelings. You're getting really to the core, actually, of your trauma. You're feeling your fragility as a human being. That's good. Now, what I want you to do is to move from that to a kind of blind, insensate, inchoate rage at the first thing you can find.
Right.
And then I want you to lash out and hit it and hurt it
Yes.
under the premise that if you can do that enough, you won't have to feel your feelings anymore. I really
100%.
think we're making great progress. I'll see you next week.
Perfect.
It's a great. First of all, like, this is the exact advice I got from my therapist on BetterHelp.com, who told me, "Oh, you're feeling sad. Have you thought about changing that S to an M and be mad?" And then I was mad, and then I started hitting anything.
Well, to be clear, anger is actually can be healing.
Sure.
So in the book you mentioned, Nora, the book I wrote with my dad, there's a chapter on the, I don't know, 7 A's of healing or some shit. I forget exactly how many A's. Anger is one of them. But that's for people who have been numb their whole life or have been nice their whole life or who haven't allowed themselves to have that healthy nervous system response that says, no,
Yeah.
get away from me. But anger is supposed to resolve itself and
Yes.
then resolve itself into the capacity to feel the other feelings, the softer ones, like grief, like sadness, which allows your heart to heal, which allows you to have some other emotions. But what he wants, he's talking about getting stuck. And we actually mention that rage, as normally understood, is a vortex that never releases you. and it causes all kinds of, I mean, that's where you get abusive cycles and all that, which is exactly what he's advocating. He doesn't want people to stay in their tender feelings. I mean, the world after October 7th for a couple of days felt very tenderly towards Israel, just like the world felt kind of tenderly towards America after 9/11.
Yes.
The governments of those countries did not want that tenderness. They didn't want that nurturance. They didn't want that compassion or empathy.
No.
They wanted people to get on board the
blind rage. And that's the funny thing
revenge
about
train,
this
yeah.
is the way in which like this video is shot with the music and the, you know, just Elon's whole like liberal Zionist affectation that he
Goebbels
puts
in a
on.
suit and an Oxbridge accent.
Yes, where he he is telling people like you're supposed to not think about what he just said, in which he said like, I understand that we're all feeling grief, but now we need to turn that grief into rage, which is literally the game plan of Hasbara for the last 11 months. Just remember, you need to feel rage and then a determination to execute that rage via violence. Like it is, he's just saying what the point of all
We
of
need
this
to be
Hasbara
less
is.
like Jews
Yeah.
who know how to grieve.
Yes.
And like, don't sit Shiva. Don't
Yeah,
wait 7
don't-
days. Be more
Yes.
like Nazis who never felt the grief to begin with and went straight to the rage.
Right. You know,
Right.
it's just like out here trying to
And-
arm
and
a
d-
minion.
yeah. And never look at the root causes.
No. Yeah.
Never
That's-
look at what brought them there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
never go
Yeah.
from grief to
Never-
reflection, to rage to
Never-
reflection.
No introspection. None.
like Elon's watching like the Star Wars prequels where Yoda's like, or maybe it was in one
It was
of
in
the Star
Empire
Wars.
Strikes Back.
Yeah,
Grief,
fear
you
leads
know.
to anger.
Yeah, yeah.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And he's like,
Oh yeah, that was the
good.
prequel. Yeah.
Good. That sounds like
Where
a
can-
good plan.
Where can I learn more about this? Are there any
Any
Jedi
teachers?
masters who teach this? And if not, is there a variant of the Jedi?
yeah,
that I could-
someone maybe cool red sword. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone got electricity fire out of their fingers. But I'll
I
continue.
don't like how
this.
grief feels.
Yeah.
to do whatever they can, bring them home. But from you here, 14,000 kilometers away, we need to hear a different message to the Hamas terror regime. Let them go now.
New hashtag
We need
alert.
More
Yeah.
international pressure on the Hamas terror regime and its backers.
Jesus Christ.
This there's a new axis of evil coming out here that includes it's Qatar, Turkey, and Iran. So we're not just Iran anymore. Now we're also
expanding.
Qatar and
Yeah.
Turkey.
Yeah.
And this seems to be kind of the thing. At the very least, Elon Levy is pushing. This is
Let them go.
from
I mean, it's full. All they want, and this is Netanyahu's whole shtick, is full surrender. That's
Yes.
all, that's
Right.
their ceasefire deal. Is that
Right.
no, you just have to surrender.
surrender, and then we can do what we
Yeah, and
will
then
with
we'll
you.
Just kill you faster.
Right.
Like,
Right,
what?
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is not an actual like
No.
that's not an option.
Yeah. Say
Or-
uncle is not a negotiating strategy.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
right.
It's they are saying loudly and clearly back to them, for that, if you want that, you're going to have to kill us all. And you can look at that and be like, wow, what a monstrous thing. But it's the position that they put them in, and we're supposed to, as like the enlightened Western world, we're supposed to just be like, oh well, what else can they do but genocide? We're supposed to be okay with that. Like that's a completely insane thing.
As
for
if the
a-
Palestinians haven't tried literally everything
exactly.
else.
Everything,
Exactly.
and have been denigrated and demonized for
And ignored.
everything else, and ignored.
And ignored.
Yes,
I mean, the Great March of
exactly.
Return was just summarily
Right.
ignored by the world, which is the thing that they'd been harangued and browbeaten that they need to do for years. Just
Right.
protest peacefully. Okay.
Right. Or
Yeah.
BDS is a tactic, which is a non-violent tactic,
Mhm.
being attacked, in ways that people, lose their livelihood over, people lose jobs over that.
In Texas.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, Arkansas.
Yes,
Yeah.
like attacking civil liberties
Yeah.
of Americans and of people in other countries, I'm sure, where they're just like, no, it is illegal to do this boycott. I mean, you can't like look at all this and not eventually come to the conclusion that like Israel is not an ally of not just the American people, but like Jewish Americans or Jewish English people or.
It reminds me of Star Trek: The Next Generation. The Borg, when they first encounter the Borg, whose motto is, you will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Resistance is futile. Yeah.
It takes quite a while for Picard and the crew to realize that this entity is not trying to negotiate with you.
Right.
They just want your unconditional surrender, and that's it. No matter what you have to offer them.
Yeah.
And then they went, well, why does the world hate us?
Yeah.
Because you're acting like a giant space cube of robots.
That's actually medieval anti-Semitism to compare Jews to the Borg. Yes, they during the Spanish Inquisition, the Spaniards often asked if Jews were Borgs. they would break into
triggering.
a Jewish person's home, and go, "Have you seen Next Generation?" and so, anyways, but yeah, to continue, this is from Elon's very own like citizen spokesperson network or whatever. This is one of his guys. This is one of his guys given the similar Hasbara talking points.
I want to tell you something that frustrates me. World leaders are saying
Same blue
Hamas
suit.
must release the hostages, but none are saying what the consequences will be if Hamas does not release the hostages. Must needs to be followed by an or else.
Or else what? Or else what? Genocide?
Yeah.
Why does this guy's he dresses exactly like Elon, like exactly the
Yeah.
same suit, but his cadences and body languages in the edits make him look like a YouTube music theory instructor. Be like,
We're
"Here's
gonna
the
break down Radiohead's In Rainbows.
Exactly. Can you believe they used 4 chords that changed the history of music?
Yeah, yeah.
Check this out.
The 4 chords are Iran, Qatar, Turkey, and Hamas.
Or else it is meaningless. What might or else mean? Here's an idea. Hamas is welcome in Qatar, a non-NATO ally, and the host of the last World Cup. Hamas is welcome in Turkey, a member of NATO. It was in Turkey where Hamas leader Khalid Mashal issued his call for more suicide bombings. Hamas has an interesting relationship with Egypt, a major recipient of U.S. military aid. It was through
Oh, they're
Egypt
going after
that
U.S.
Hamas
military
smuggled-
aid recipients?
Yeah, dude. No, thank you for that. We really appreciate.
Speaking of or else's,
Or else. My God.
massive amounts of
and closing by my Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Adam.
weapons into Gaza. And then there's Iran, a huge supporter of Hamas and the entire ring of fire surrounding Israel. Iran
Oh my
has
God.
enjoyed
Wow.
massive U.S.
Bong,
sanctions.
bong, bong,
Hamas's
bong.
enablers have points that expose
Hamas,
them to pressure
here's a burning
from the whole
thing.
world. Tell your leaders. Pressure Hamas's partners to pressure Hamas. It should not be possible for a country to be a NATO ally and also support Hamas. Do you agree?
Do you agree or else?
Yeah. Ugly or else. But yeah, we're now getting a new axis of evil out there. It's
They're
nice to
just
see
throwing
that.
everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Honestly, it is the most like let's just throw shit at the wall. We're throwing the
Yeah.
kitchen sink at the world just to see like who is someone who we can all get behind invading here, guys. Please, let's stop focusing on what we're doing wrong and start focusing on what Turkey's doing. I bet they're doing some shit in Turkey.
Oh my
Well,
God.
That
and this is-
Erdogan.
and coming back to something I was saying before, like, again, if you don't want to have sympathy for the family of an Israeli American hostage who served in the IOF, IDF, whatever you want to call it, I get it. But I'm telling you, when I see the eulogy of, say, Hirsch's mom or whatever, and just her animal pain, like her just organic, genuine human emotion, and that she directs that anger appropriately at her own government and speaks about how his death is being used.
Yep.
I want to see more of that coming out of that country, because that is the antidote to robots, monsters like this blue-suited
That's
freak.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
maybe it won't be enough to redeem that country or salvage it, and may the Jewish stateness of it crumble yesterday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But at the same time, signs of life, signs of humanity, I'm not going to overlook them and completely turn Israelis into even more of a cartoon than they're already making themselves
Right.
to be.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
me.
they really are. I mean, they really are. And there's this thing, you know, where I've heard your dad, again, bringing up your dad. I love your dad, but I've heard him talk about this too. Like the more that Zionism has like, is like an ideology of isolation already,
Yes.
Mhm.
right? And then like the more that Jewish Zionists feel like they're being attacked, like the closer, you know, their little sphere becomes, and they kind of like close ranks, and they get even more like a, you know, wounded animal sort of behavior.
I think we're going to see some examples of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
in a
I could
second, yeah.
see, you know, like as the society crumbles, as their economy completely collapses, as they turn against each other internally. I mean, they might do a civil war. They might give up and go back to New Jersey or, you know, Berlin or wherever they were from originally.
Bring them home.
Exactly. Exactly. But we're also going to see like the fanaticism as it crumbles. They're
Yes.
gonna be turning on themselves even more.
Oh yeah.
Like, God help us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God help
You
us
know?
all, because it's
Seriously.
you don't see it. The issue I have with it is that I do not see it as like if they're making these, you know, 6 Israeli soldiers the world's problem.
Yeah.
You know, what are they going to do when civil war breaks out? You know, like this is not a country that's where you go like, oh, you know, we'll just isolate them and let them, you know, do their thing. They can have their civil war in peace. Like this is going to be you know, it's gonna be bad. It's just going to be bad. And you know, it's uh, uh yeah, it's being a Jewish person, I can't help but like look at that and go like, I do not want to see a bunch of Jewish people tearing each other's throats out. And then as just a, you know, human being, I think anyone is like, oh, I don't want to see people tearing each other's throats out in general. But I don't really see a diplomatic solution here that doesn't
Right.
include some insane people in Israel
Yeah.
being kicked to the curb in one way or another. You know, like
Yeah. I mean, it's like the logical conclusion of Zionism,
yes,
you know, predicated on an ideology, political ideology predicated on ethnic cleansing, genocide,
Yes.
supremacy,
And self-hatred.
violence, and self-hatred.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Like that's the logical conclusion, that as it ends, as it eats itself,
Mhm.
it's going to take, you know, its believers with it.
Yep.
And, you know, and the people who have suffered the most, you know, suffered the effects of Zionism the most, the Palestinians, they're the ones paying the price.
They're the ones
for
paying the
this,
price.
and they will continue to until you know, Zionism is dealt with.
Yes.
And their
to be
rights are restored.
And to be 100% clear, no matter how I feel about it inside and my little feelings,
Yeah.
Palestinians have absolutely no compunction to give any shit whatsoever
Nor
about it.
did-
Nor wait another second for them
That's
to,
right.
as human beings.
Nor are they.
There are strategic questions as to
Yeah.
what's the best
Yeah.
route, whatever. That's for them to decide.
Yeah.
Nor are they in
but-
any way
yeah.
at fault if they're just like, I would really like them to tear each other's fucking
Yeah,
throats out. So
absolutely.
that if only to give us a brief respite from it.
Yes.
And,
completely.
and I
They've been bearing the brunt of Zionism for 76 years, for 150, almost 50 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
And I can't help it that once you see enough of the way Israeli society operates and their quote, sense of humor about things, and the things that they're now more and more willing to say in public.
And in English.
And in English too.
English.
I cannot help but be like, all right, you know what? You guys fucking
You're done.
You're Civil War it out. This is I cannot stand you. In fact, at this point, my anger towards them, beyond them being, genocidal maniacs, is just like, can you just leave the rest of world Jewry out of this?
Shut
Like,
the fuck up already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, just the more you claim to represent us, and the more insanity that you display to the public, like I'm now finally starting to get that whole feeling of, back in the day, it was just like, hey, don't criticize Israel in front of other people, because you don't want to make us look bad, for the rest of the world. It's like, don't tell people, yes, we have our faults and whatnot, but it's like, you don't want the rest of the world to know, because then it'll make us look bad. Now I'm like, you're making us look bad just by existing, guys. At this point, you are bad. It's not about
it's not about like, airing out dirty laundry. I'm like, those are not my clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'm not wearing that shit.
No.
Speaking of making us look bad, there's another podcast apparently out here. Did you know that there's a Bizarro World? Matt
Good Hasbara?
Yeah, Good Hasbara, where they open up with like an ironic list of Hamas achievements. I guess they open with your theme song.
Yeah,
Daniel.
I wrote it for them. I should send it to them. Good Bad Hasbara.
Bad Hasbara.
Give them a new intro. But yeah, this has been sent to me over and over.
I only learned about them today.
Yeah, just literally people tagging, and I'm like, well, what is this? So people want to send me a podcast clip. And this is just like, well, I just have to play it. It is, trigger warning to those out here who are desperately not trying to feel rage. I think you're going to feel a little bit of that. And I'm sorry.
So this is we should set
Gaza.
it up,
Oh,
right?
no.
This is the biggest English language podcast in Israel. Yes, Two Nice Jewish Boys or something like that. The Nice Jewish Boys podcast.
Two Nice Jewish.
You know
boys.
these guys, Nora?
I mean, I just heard of this. Today, this morning.
Yeah.
And it is. So here are the Nice Jewish Boys. Right here.
Mass destruction, but there's not massive death
or deportation.
Anyway, so when you sit on your high horse, and I'm sure, I don't mean to belittle our listeners. We love you guys, but
that's
if you're
our line.
Listening to our words and saying, "How could they?"
Yeah, well, no, I think we tell our listeners we do mean to belittle you.
Because
your hogs eat the slop. If you don't see, this is why that these guys are bad, is because if you don't have a little bit of contempt for the audience, then this is the problem with Zionism, right?
Well, no, they have utter contempt for their audience. We have
we do it for fun.
We have it for fun. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's an act of love.
We do it out of love.
Their love is an act of contempt.
Exactly.
Our contempt is an act of love.
You have to understand, listeners. We are irony pilled to the point of being incoherent. So occasionally we will be serious and say we love you.
Now these guys are a really good example of why Israelis are incapable of irony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they want to be irony pilled. But they are anemic. They're irony deficient.
They are irony deficient. Yes.
Advocating do massive bombing, indiscriminate bombing, How could they talk about killing children? We're not advocating to target children. But forgive us if we don't give a shit. If, everybody there dies. It's just the way we feel. It's just the way Israelis feel.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what that's the
Give this guy
that's
a
what the
blue
Hulon
suit.
attack did. I wrote to Sharon, my wife. I was like, it'll be you or me tomorrow, or Daniela or Itai, God forbid.
Yep.
And so I would, if you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second.
Including the hostages.
That's just, I think,
Yeah.
I think
Starting
most
with them.
Israelis
If
probably
that's the
agree.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If that's
No, even if it's not like
even
So
even if
you
it's
know,
not
you
the
know
truth.
who you immediately know who the good cop and bad cop are, and
Yeah.
the good cop is very, very, very bad.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, look, if we were forced
Right. If, we,
to
if,
it,
we
if
had
there was
no
the
other
choice,
no
the
other
guy's
button.
like, yeah. Well, actually, no,
No,
even if
no,
it wasn't
no,
a
no.
choice, I want to do it.
No, can we do that?
Can we take the initiative and just do it?
right now.
Yeah, no.
I would press it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same with the territories.
I would press it right now.
Mm-hmm.
No choice. No, Shawn is safe at home. God willing. I don't know. I haven't spoken to her in like an hour.
No, I'm saying for the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would press it right now. Give me that button and press it right now.
there you go.
And I think most Israelis would.
Yeah, most Jewish
They wouldn't.
Israelis.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't talk about it like I am.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't post. They wouldn't say I pressed it,
Yeah,
but they would.
they
press
don't
it.
have balls of steel like you.
They would, but they would press it. Right? Like if they were in a
Yeah.
closet alone, they wouldn't even hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
Someone came to them and said, "No one will know. You press this, all the Palestinians are gone." You'd be like, "Fucking hey, is there another one?"
Ugh.
So sick.
I hate, this is why podcasts are bad, but like
Hey, they'll give anyone a podcast these days.
they'll just give anyone a podcast. It doesn't matter. But you look at this and he goes on in the same, podcast episode to talk about like, just how in general, nobody gives a shit in Israel, about dead babies and whatnot and the destruction and how it's actually,
Especially
it's nice
and polio
to know.
too. It's
Right.
like, and we would enjoy our outdoor raves more if we could project in the sky images of people in their quote unquote Nakba tents
Yes.
and all that. This is the logical endpoint of Zionism, is a complete hollowing out of human empathy. And I get it. I've said this a million times in the podcast, Nora. When I lived on kibbutz, what I would hear Israelis pining for, wishing for, praying for more than anything was not shalom, it was sheket,
Yeah.
quiet.
That's
Just
right.
make it go away, please. And of course they want it to go away. It's an irritant. And that's how you get a genocidal people. Now, of course, at this point, there's a lot of people all over the world who, if there was a button that did something else, made these two guys
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
spontaneously combust, would as well.
You know what's funny about the way he's framing it here too is it's still coming from a place of believing that the vast majority of Israelis are still cowards. Like that's the way it's framed. Is they're
Yeah.
cowardly? Is that they would have to press that button in secret, unlike me, who would openly and on camera press the button that genocided all of the Palestinians immediately. Like it just
There's that like aspect of Israeli culture, this like kind of like uber masculine, like,
sure. Yes.
very
Bald.
like the way that they the overlap with the sexualization,
Yes.
fetishization of Palestinian women. Like we see all these, TikTok videos and Instagram photos of Israeli soldiers just obsessed with dressing up in Palestinian women's underwear.
Yeah.
This like very, like the epitome of masculinity is genocidal intent. Like this is how you prove yourself a man, is by belittling not just the people you're genociding and stripping them of their humanity, but you're also belittling your neighbor next door who's not as willing to genocide as you are.
Right.
The
Fascinating to me.
The fundamental sin is to care.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. Yes.
Zelo echpat li. I don't care. It doesn't concern me. That's the ultimate realization of Israeliness, and people should be embracing that more. Why are you still holding on to these outdated, internationalist, cowardly, sissy considerations for something outside the short-term survival of your own wife and kids? You pussy.
Right. And it's just so clear.
So deep.
Yeah. It's so clear too that like we're getting to the point in which I almost feel like the foundation upon which all this like genocidal intent is based on is a foundation of like victimization, right? Just like we are victims, we're the eternal victim. Anything we do, any act of violence is self-defense. We're getting to the point now where the idea of the offense, the thing that they're being defensive against, is so abstract that they're kind of like not even pretending this is from a victimhood narrative. It's almost just from an annoyance narrative where they're going like, well, isn't being annoyed is make you a victim of some sort? You're being annoyed by the existent prodding of an annoying person. And at some point you just realize that going like, there's not, because this is for an Israeli audience, this is the biggest English language podcast in Israel, I guess. They are speaking to them directly without any pretense of like, as victims, here's how we defend ourselves from genocide is by doing a genocide. It's like in this clip, it's, very clear. And the other clips of this in which they just talk about, the Nova Festival, what if they should have been live streaming, all the deaths of the Palestinians in their Nakba tents or whatever.
Because we get high on that.
Well, it's just very clear that it's just like, between us Israelis, like it makes us feel good when they are suffering.
Yep.
And you look at that and you go like, oh, no pretense. We're not even gonna.
Well, what they're confessing to, actually, if you think about it, is the intolerable existential condition,
right?
Of just being an Israeli.
Yes.
Just that is a miserable, miserable, miserable place, and it was always going to be a miserable place as long as you're haunted by the half extermination of a people.
Yeah,
it didn't complete the job. Now, the misery of American settler colonialism and the sins of and the wages of slavery and the extermination of the Native, those have sunk deep into the culture.
Oh yeah.
But somehow they've also sprouted a lot of because actually black people have been integrated into the culture, and they didn't succeed in wiping out. Well, they did succeed
because
to a large extent in erasing it, so that the poison of that goes deeper into the soil, but in some ways gets subsumed and gets absorbed into the culture. There's no absorption in Zionism. There's no absorption in being an Israeli because the problem never went away, and you're being haunted all the time, whether there's a suicide bombing in Tel Aviv today or not, whether there's been one in 10 years or not. It's all the same.
Yeah, I think the glass house that Americans live in and the glass house that Israelis live in are similar, but different in very key ways. Whereas, like, we have our, constructed Hasbara, essentially, that serves to explain why America is still great. No matter, what our past is, we have all of this, we hide under layers and layers and layers of false narratives. Why, we are a white supremacist, anti-black state.
Yeah.
We have a million different excuses and reasons, just like the Israelis do. The difference, and this is like the key difference, is whereas Americans, I think, occasionally bring up we went to America for religious freedom. That's like, they'll talk about that. In general, there isn't as much of the victim narrative that I think exists as to the creation of the state of America, right? Like the state of America, our Hasbara, so to speak, along that was like we were a victim of the British government for wanting to tax our tea, right? Like that's kind of what we learned. But in general,
and then from then on, we left our doors somewhat open to other victims of other people,
right?
Even as we victimized, but it wasn't like all of us had the same victimhood coming to one place because it was the only place for us.
Right. And I think that is like the key difference, is that because Zionism is built on this ethno-nationalist project that takes the anti-Semitism of Europe and superimposes it onto every single nation of the earth in which Jews existed, and says, you are not safe there. All Jews, you are not safe there. Like, that is the justification for genocide and ethnic cleansing. That the justification is we need this. If there's anyone else here who's not us, they must be destroyed. Why? Because the outside world hates us,
and we need to keep doing it forever because it's
and I
because
realize
it's
how
because it's
unhealthy.
who we are.
Because I grew up with the narrative of everybody hates you if they know you're Jewish, and I remember, kind of like thinking, well, that, maybe in a place where there's not a lot of Jews, but it seems like I just thought the world was like half Jewish at the time when I was a kid growing up. I didn't think there were such a small minority, right? But I still grew up with the idea that, like, if people who aren't Jewish secretly hate you, and I realized that, like, that can be, pretty, like, damaging, to anybody, I think. But to base a country's
entire society
and society's raison d'etre, raison d'etat, I guess, or like
Staatsräson.
Yes. Like, whatever that French word is, like, to base a country on that is just a recipe for this kind of shit. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Well,
it may not be a country for very much longer. So there's that.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Well, listen, this has, I think, been a great podcast. I feel like I am someone who occasionally gets long-winded on here, and I hope what I said at the end made any sense.
It sure did.
Oh yeah.
Did it? Before we get out of here, Nora, any final words on what you think about Israel?
I don't care for it.
All right.
Or what you think the possibilities are of a nice Jewish boy / bad Hasbara crossover.
Oh, we go on tour together and we rip each other's throats out. Sick.
My God. I mean, my prediction is that podcast is actually going to gain, 10 times as many listeners and followers.
Maybe.
But,
yeah, it's hard to tell. I do feel like the one thing that has kept me going through the last 11 months has been watching people's Hasbara podcasts fail miserably. Like Michael Rappaport, he's like,
that's right. Where did he go, by the way?
He went to Israel.
Hoping that you.
This is where he went.
Did he
He's
stay there?
constantly throwing up to
back.
fill in Siegheils.
Yeah.
All of his fucking tweets are like his leather wrapped hand.
Oh,
Like,
he's going like
feeling
to the sky.
Siegheils.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, his podcast, which used to be just about sports, I think, it's like turned into just Hasbara, and people, you'll go to like comments and people are like, what happened to this, man? This sucks now. Or, Elon Levy's State of Israel podcast, which sucks ass and nobody's listening to. It makes me feel good.
That's good.
So let's hope, two nice Jewish boys are.
I think you should just rebrand Bad Hasbara as that and just take over the entire, and
let's
then
do
people
it.
Be confused and they'll get radicalized. And
yes, we start.
I mean, they are doing our job for us. I mean, they are just.
It's true.
They're saying the quiet part out loud. It's just that it's kind of a. It's like it's a bummer. It's like a
real
bummer. A bummer to play that shit. Like
I know.
Yeah.
It's
they're so joyless. There's no pretense at all, right?
Yeah.
Like with Elon Levy, there's a pretense, and that for us as comics, as satirists, we're there to pierce. We're there to penetrate the pretense, right?
Yeah, the pretense is the
but they just come out and they're like, you know what I really like?
Killing all of them.
I'd like to eat their flesh.
Yeah.
I really would. I really, really, really would. And I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I want to see them all burn. What the fuck are we supposed to do with that? Except be like, well, that's what they're saying.
Submit it to the Hague, I think.
Yeah.
And just be like, you need more evidence?
How about this?
How about this? I got
Will
more.
this be enough?
I got a lot of my bookmarks. Just look through my bookmarks on Twitter and then tell me whether or not they're doing genocide. But yeah,
Bleak. It's bleak, guys.
it is bleak. But you know what's not bleak? Nora Barrows-Friedman. You are a ray of light in dark, dark times. I
gem.
love your work.
Namesake.
I really do. I do love
Thanks.
your contributions on Electronic Intifada, and I do. You are one of the only live streams that I watch.
Hey,
Yes,
thanks.
I very much enjoy.
And I'm sorry, it's not an easy show to produce
know.
every week.
No, but
I
you guys
know,
have been.
it's just-
You guys are so
So good.
detailed and
Thank you.
forensic and passionate, but just sharp.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
God, that means so much.
You guys are amazing. One more time for everybody. Where can people find you and find your work?
On Twitter at Nora BF, as in best friend. And you can go to electronicintifada.net to read our latest features. We always have an incredible collection of features. We try to publish a few every day from our writers in Gaza. We're writing just impeccable and courageously, crafted reports for us. And then on YouTube, just go to, I think it's the Electronic Intifada on YouTube. Watch our live streams every Wednesday, and
Yeah.
should do it.
Absolutely. Check all of that out. Thank you so much for coming on. Patreon.com/badhasbara, badhasbara@gmail.com. Please email us anything you want. Voicemails are good. We like voicemails. So why don't you send us some and, maybe we'll play it on the show as long as it's short and interesting. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, you got one? I could do it. Either one.
You go for it.
All right. From the river to the sea. I wonder if that podcast has ads for Sherry's Berries. You know Sherry's Berries?
I don't.
It's like it's like a berry. You can buy like baskets of chocolate covered berries. A lot of podcasts do advertisements for it. The other version was, I wonder if that other podcast has ads for MeUndies. Because that rhymes with. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Love you.
Well
Bye. I have to explain it.
Jumping jacks was us. Push-ups was us. Krav Maga us. All karate us. Taking Molly us. Michael Jackson us. Yamaha keyboards us. Jar Jar Binks not us. Andor was us. Heath Ledger Joker us. Endless breadsticks us. Happy Meals was us.